So I was listening to the podcast hosted by Dr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi, where he hosted John Endres, who is the CEO of the IRR, which is Institute for Race Relations. The podcast is on the African Renaissance podcast YouTube channel. But as I was busy sitting through this interview, two things about BEE that was said by two gentlemen, really stood out. And I just think it's not, I thought to myself that I need to say something about it, because I don't think these are aspects of this BE conversation that we should be overlooking. As we know, I've covered BE in previous videos recently. It's an ongoing conversation. So I hope you guys get the gist. And I'm going to roll the two clips. The first is where Dr. Ndlozi is basically making the case, right, for state intervention. So that's basically his position, that the state must play a role. The state must play a role. I said Ndlozi is on the left, Dr. Ndlozi is on the left, so that would make sense. And particularly through procurement, right, stating the fact that procurement is an important mechanism for the state to be able to, play its role.
Because that's a huge financial muscle, the budget, the fiscal procurement, state procurement in certain countries plays wonders as a serious growth multiplier.
Yes.
It's not doing that
Correct.
here. And you can't just reduce it, I suppose. I mean, maybe you will. I don't know what's your explanation, but you can't say it's because of BEE. We have to build state capacity to deliver services. I believe BEE has to be preferential, but it has to be targeted in certain sectors. I think that there are sectors that we say we need to build, because the BEE idea is about the economy must not be white, owned. When we look at the profile of the owners of the economy, there must be a deliberate purpose, deliberate program by the state to make it representative of the demographics of South Africa. And the state has this muscle called procurement.
Yes.
And I think that certainly not on a road, man. I mean, municipal workers should build the roads. That's prime. But there are infant industries that you want to develop, that you want to build, that you can gain competitive advantage on, that are important for your sovereignty, that are important for you not to be dependent. In those areas, I think you must have preferential spending or preferential procurement. You start with South Africans, you go to South Africans regardless of their race, you go, and then women, people with disabilities, because these people, because of our social conditions, our cultural conditions, don't live in the same rooms. By and large, they are not in the same social circles where real business is being made. So you sort of create the conditions for them to speak to each other about business and to have the capacity to do these deals. I don't see anything wrong. Everybody does that in the world. They do preferential procurement. It might not be on the basis of race, but it may be, for instance, to develop a specific industry, and they give it time. They will go for 20 years. Americans have been protecting their agricultural produce for as long as that economy existed. Because if they were to open that market, they cannot compete with the world.
Yeah.
So then, contrary to what Dr. Ndlozi is saying, you then have John, who is arguing that the ANC, the way the ANC has used public procurement, which is meant, again, we know procurement is a really critical vehicle to getting services from the public sector, from government to people, right? So it's a really important bridge. John is arguing that the way in which the ANC has approached this procurement system through BE, through all of these preferential targets, and you get points and all of that, that is what John is saying has failed. In fact, he's saying it has been harmful.
That brings us to a great point, which is this. Currently under South African law, the state is entitled to overspend in public procurement. It is allowed to spend more than it needs to.
Most countries do that.
Because there's a preferential procurement. Right.
Yeah, they say, look, we're going to protect Ford.
No, this is not that kind of spending.
Yeah, well, but it's preferential.
Yeah,
the state says, we are only going to buy from this factory the cars that the state procures. For
Yeah.
20 years, it's not making any single profit. But they know, as a Japan, we want to have our own car.
Yeah.
40 years later, there's no village in the world without Toyota. After 20 years of wasteful procurement,
Well,
which was preferential.
Well, let me go sort of one step back. And let us imagine a situation where there's a village and there's a little dirt road that leads to the main road. And that dirt road is 10 kilometers long.
Mm-hmm.
And the government says, wouldn't it be good if we tarred that road? Because then the villagers would be able to get to the main road and to places of work more easily, to the schools more easily, and whatever they're manufacturing. They can sell more easily in the markets if they can get through that main road. What a great idea. Let's tar that road. So they put out a tender and say, who can do this work for us? Here's how much money we've got available. They get various bids, and they give it to a black-owned company that is able to overcharge by design. That's what the Preferential Procurement Act allows, right?
It doesn't have to.
It doesn't have to, but it can. So it can get the bid even though it's charging more than other.
If there are five companies
let me just finish.
and only one is black and it's offering the highest of the rest,
Price.
the state has the right to go to this one.
Yes.
And that's the premium you're speaking about.
Yes.
Okay, agreed.
And the consequence of this is that if the budget does not increase for the paving of the road, then not all of the 10 kilometers will be paved.
That is so reductionist.
And I think the issue here for South Africa, what becomes the biggest problem now that we're taking Ndlozi, who has really brought some insight in terms of understanding why the procurement, public procurement, is so critical. And for me, also just highlighting something important, that for the ANC, it is in their interest that they keep things the way they are, right? They keep BEE, which is basically their way of using procurement by having these preferential sort of guidelines, people having to get a BEE score. That is their approach. So what Ndlozi is saying is insight that no, the ANC is likely not going to ever fold, because it is in their interest that things stay the same. And also the fact that we know ANC's commitment, right, to becoming a bigger player as the state, the state mentality, which is what Ndlozi, in fact, is really passionate about. If I could have a rand or $100, ideally, for every time Dr. Ndlozi spoke about the state in this interview, I'd have at least over 10,000, because that is really their position. If you look at the fact that the National Democratic Revolution remains a guiding policy for the ANC, but the issue with the approach, as we've seen in the last few years, is that the why the state does procurement has not really been established in a way that is going to help us.
Coming back to the preferential procurement, in the case of that road, what will happen is that only 5 kilometers of that road get tarred, and the Black Empowerment Company benefits from that tender, but the villagers lose out because they don't get that tarred road. And that happens again and again in public procurement.
Is that because of the procurement? I don't understand.
Well,
I mean, if you get...
you're not getting value for money.
But if you get companies that do deliver the road, would you change your views?
If they're already delivering at the best price, then you don't need preferential procurement. But they're not delivering at the best price. They're overcharging. They're charging more.
Let's say they are, but they do deliver the road, and the state has an interest that in the construction sector there are black players.
Yes.
It's going to use its procurement muscle to develop the black bourgeoisie.
Yes, but
it will do that on the basis of merit, nonetheless.
But what's the consequence?
Why should the state not be why shouldn't it take that cost?
Because you're making people worse off. Like, you're harming poor people by doing that.
How? I'm not following.
Well, in the case of the road, the villagers don't get the tarred road.
We are together with you. Whoever doesn't build a road must be scrapped during BEE or outside BEE.
Yes. So, and this is what Chief Justice Zondo said, right? No, in the Zondo Commission report.
I don't remember. Okay.
But you must remember.
I'm with you.
Page 963.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Okay.
I'm with you.
Yes.
You must be able to deliver the road.
At what cost?
I'm saying to you, why is the logic?
Yes.
In and of itself, a priori, you are disqualifying it a priori, that the state shouldn't bear the cost, the social cost.
It's not the state bearing the cost.
No,
it's the recipient.
I'm saying if they do get a road.
Yes.
If they do get a road, they've gotten the road.
Yes.
You and I agree, if they can't provide the road,
they
must not get the tender.
Yes.
But if they can,
Yes.
and there are 3 companies,
Yes.
and the black players can get the road right,
At a higher price.
but at a higher price than these 2, because
Yes.
these 2 are developed.
Yes. Yes.
And in some instances, it could be international actors.
Yes.
In some instances, it's not even South African white capital.
Now look at the other side of the equation.
I'm coming to the equation.
Okay.
Why shouldn't this state, which has 300 years of deliberate disadvantage, deliberate dummification, deliberate economic exploitation of the blacks, not see it fit through its procurement capability to uplift those people?
Because it is harming other people on the other side of the equation, and it's making life worse for them.
That's how, if they're getting the road.
Because let's say the state says, okay, we're going to increase the budget in order to get the black-owned firm to
They
build
say
the
they
road.
don't increase the budget. They don't increase the budget. Then they get the road right, but they do preferential treatment.
Tell me, is it this is really important. This is really important.
Yes.
What's the cost of doing that, of that road?
What does it matter if it is about
It matters a lot.
addressing what you and I started by agreeing?
Let's be honest, guys. Services do not care about who you prefer, right? Services look at the budget, they look at who comes cheaper and who can do the job better than anyone else, right? The current design, which basically, according to what Dr. Ndlozi says or states in this interview, is that there's even provision. If, for example, there's 4 different companies, 3 of companies are white owned and 1 is black owned, the provisions under the BEE Act allow for the state to go with the black-owned company, even if the 3 white-owned companies are cheaper. John clearly makes the analogy as to why this is problematic. Because if you go with the guy who is not the cheapest, right, because he's your preferred, it means you have to go back to the ministry, go back to Treasury and ask for more money, because now you need to meet the pricing that this person came in for, right? Mind you, all of these things are happening before the job is done. So if Treasury says, well, we don't have any more money, and your preference or your BEE guidelines say that you need to give it to the black guy, even if the other 3 who are not black come in cheaper, what happens is that the people that are waiting on the ground for a road, for a clinic, for a hospital, don't get it.
A road in dire disrepair following delays in the completion of its multi-million rand upgrade has now become a burden for locals who are forced to use it daily.
Hi Sally, I'm shocked at 2020.
This road has been like this since 2020. There is no progress or completion in sight. Our cars get damaged and traffic officers arrest us. This road has been like this for 2 years and it makes it a challenge for us to travel.
Others say they continue to lose money on damages caused by this road, while what they say is rampant mismanagement of state funds continues.
A lot of money was spent here and people were paid, but the road didn't get better. Look at our bumpers. They are falling off. We don't even know who to turn to. Or maybe we should just protest, because it seems protesting is the only way to get things fixed.
And what I'm going to state in conclusion is that when the why, right, shifts from consumption and leverage and patronage, which then leads to corruption like we've seen, when the why you doing procurement shifts to build, right, to using procurement to build your nation, it's a totally different ballgame, right? And when you shift from consume to build, it cannot be on a preference base. It cannot be based on any preference. I stated in a recent video why I think even if the DA comes with this inclusive, more pro-poor, sort of approach to BE, as cute as that may sound, it's still problematic, because once there's preference, people adjust their behavior to hit the preferential score as opposed to focusing on the task at hand, which is to become a strong and competent business that can help the state meet its goals. That is, for me, the simple fact that when preference still remains, you have a problem. But when the why shifts from consuming and filling up your pockets, patronage, which leads to corruption, when you shift from that to build, it becomes a game of price. It becomes a game of competence. In fact, we would even see companies that are not even South African competing to make sure that we've got the best roads, the best schools, the best hospitals. If we do not shift our why for procurement, we're going to have the same problems. They'll come again and say, no, BEE is important. Yet people don't get services. Projects don't get completed because money runs out. Like Ndlozi said, if the state is willing to regard people that are coming in cheaper, but take the guy who's the most expensive just so that they can say they hit BEE, how is that going to serve poor people? How does that make sure that communities get what they need? Okay, cool. I'm going to leave it at that. Please do let me know your thoughts in the comment section on the procurement objectives, right? The state and procurement, that is something that will most likely never go away because the state needs to build infrastructure. The state needs to build the environment that I'm always hammering about, that we need strong environments for people to run businesses. But with that said, do you agree that we need to take a more responsible path? We need to change the why we procure so that we can procure to build. Are you in line or in agreement with that? Again, I urge you to go watch the sit down with Dr. Ndlozi as well as John Endres. Very eye-opening, very insightful. In fact, I don't even think I did any justice. Go sit through the entire 1 hour or so long interview. Let's learn. Let's get the conversation going in the right direction, on the right topics, and not just only when it's emotionally charged, because that doesn't help us. We need to become an informed voter base. But that's it for now. Please like this video. It goes a long way. And please also, it's just a request. If you're watching my video or you haven't subscribed or you're coming in for the first time or a returning viewer, please subscribe to the Journey Podcast. I look forward to seeing you guys again soon.